Check, check, 1, 2, 3. It's 2 on this occasion. The second tier of Czech football is called the Czech National Football League. Here are the stadiums. Stadion Střelecký Ostrov. Oh, well, this is weird because I just talked about this topic in the previous video. But one of the most notable aspects to this stadium is not within the stadium. That being the water tower over here that was built way back in 1724. Now, I promise I don't have some strange interest in water towers, but since we are on the topic, this is what the water towers look like where I'm from. Now, call me biased, but I think this one is a thing of beauty. I mean, look at the curves on that. Sure, this one's fine, I guess, you know, for a water tower, but oh, that utilitarian charm. Speaking of which, the stadium itself is definitely a case of function over form. But I'm sure it functions very well. Another distinctive feature is the roof is made from blue plastic, which is probably not everyone's cup of tea, because usually teacups are made from some sort of ceramic or porcelain. This ground has hosted one international match involving the Czech team. That was a 2-0 win against Liechtenstein. I don't know if that counts as a win though, to be honest. Stadion Za Vodojemem. As you can see, there are some tiny little grounds in this league. I'm talking about the capacity, of course. The field is, I assume, approximately the same as the rest, 140 by 90 donkey tails. The best feature of this ground is also a bit different. It's not the seats, not the roof, not the grass, or the turnstiles. But this restaurant here that offers patrons a great view of the field while they're eating their, what's a stereotypical Czech dish? I'm drawing a blank. It's the one with the food. No, it's not coming to me. Wait, don't they have something that's like a potato version of mac and cheese? Or is that Slovakia? Maybe it's both, I can't remember. But yeah, while the restaurant is the place to be, this stand's not too bad either. Now we head to the town of Tabor to check out Stadion v Kvapilově ulici. Is that? Oh, I thought that car had a giant wheel clamp on it for a second. It's a street sign. Speaking of street signs... Oh wait, no, this is an unrelated fact. Tabor is named after a mountain in Israel. This is another ground that falls shy of 2,000 seats, but the capacity is expected to more than double in the coming years. It will still be small, but less so. The venue only gained floodlights in 2024. I guess the players eventually got tired of running into each other in the darkness, and the spectators got tired of having to rent night vision goggles. Actually, you know what? Watching people try to play football in pitch black through night vision goggles does sound like excellent entertainment.
What's a concert we're witnessing here today?
Yes, Steve, a very enthralling match, even when you take into consideration that the ball was kicked off the field 15 minutes ago and nobody's noticed yet.
E-football arena is situated right in the heart of a city they call Prague. Few professional stadiums are as integrated into the neighbourhood as this one here. It was built on the side of a gasworks, so the surrounding building certainly got an upgraded view when this was built, and presumably an upgraded smell, although to be honest, there's no guarantee that a stadium does actually smell better than a gasworks. At one point this ground could hold around 8,000 people, but the capacity has been reduced to just over 3,000 in recent years, which is about the average in this league, I suppose. Speaking of floodlights, this ground got them in the mid-2000s, but due to the location amongst the dozens of residential buildings, they were very controversial. There were even protests about it. I can understand that, but as we've discussed, you can't play football in the dark. Not because of a lack of entertainment, but just think of the unfair advantage a team like Nigeria would have over a team like Sweden. Because, you know, Nigeria wears green, it would just camouflage with the grass. Stadion Kollárova ulice. With a capacity of just 1,200, this is the smallest stadium in the league. But as they say, it's not about how big a stadium is, it's how you use it. Actually, that saying is about something else, isn't it? Shovels, I think. But it still works with stadiums as well. Because 1,000 fanatical supporters loaded up on this amber liquid here are worth much more than 15,000 plastic fans. Just because you can get them very cheap on Alibaba nowadays. Not worth much at all. Speaking of fans though, in all seriousness, you Europeans are missing out by not having ceiling fans. They're great for sleep, they give you an ambient noise and a breeze, what more could you want? Yes, there is a small chance that the blade spinning at 500 RPM may fall on you whilst you sleep, but isn't dying peacefully in your sleep like the most desirable way to go? Městský fotbalový stadion Srbská. You may have picked up on the Srbská in the name and thought, what has this ground got to do with Serbia? Well, Srbská is the name of the street on which it's located. It's not actually that uncommon for streets to be named after countries. There's probably a Burkina Faso street out there, or even a Chad street. It'd just be gyms and sports bars on Chad Street. Maybe a burger joint. Oh, I wonder if they changed the name of Srbská Street to something else during the pig war of the early 1900s, between the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Serbia. Such a bloody war that was. It was pig's blood, so just regular butchery, but still, you know. Had I opted to just call this place by its commercial name, Šipex Arena, we wouldn't have had to talk about bloody pigs. The ground is going to be 100 years old in a few months, so that's something. As you can see, there have been plenty of additions over those 99 years to make the stadium more football friendly. It still looks a little strange in parts, but that's okay. Stadion v Jiráskově ulici. Straight away you'll notice that this ground also doubled as a track and field venue back in the day, but has been converted into an almost rectangular stadium. A rectangle with one rounded end. There's probably a name for that. Oh, let's try to guess. I'm gonna say rotungle. Okay, it can be called a rounded end rectangle, original, or a half stadium. What? Well, that's oddly fitting. I'm still gonna call it a rotungle though. Every side of the ground looks considerably different to the next. There's a traditional covered stand on one side, a strange looking elevated stand on the other. The stand to the northwest of the ground is probably the most distinctive of the bunch, and the opposite end is bordered by nothing other than grass. That's the rounded end of the rotungle you see. Interesting stadium. Stadion Olympia Radotín. I always like it when I can sort of work out the meanings of words in another language. Olympia, of course, means the residue left at the bottom of the mug after drinking a cup of coffee substitute product made primarily from chicory or barley, as the name suggests. But it does also allude to an alternate meaning of the word Olympia, from Mount Olympus. They probably just called it that because Olympics. This ground has yet to be rotungularized at all. But you can hardly expect a small town like this to have a dedicated football stadium and a separate athletics venue. Wait, what town was it again? Put the title card back up. Oh, Prague. Well, no, that's a big city. It is on the outskirts though. Prague has never hosted the Olympics. Somewhat surprising, but I guess that is left to more famous cities like Brisbane. Stadion Za Místním nádražím. That name translates to the stadium behind the local railway station. Story checks out. I wonder what the town itself is named after. It's called Prostějov. Actually, I better not look that up. Prostějov, I think I know. This is another ground that only gained floodlights in 2024. And another ground with those blue plastic roofs. You'd think they'd be better suited at a water park or something. But they're growing on me. They're like sunglasses for the concrete stands. Overall, I'd say this is a solid all-round stadium, but whether you like it or not, I think we can all agree that it's much better than the club's old ground. Yikes. Although at that old ground you could play football and forage for wild mushrooms at the same time, so swings and roundabouts. Stadion v Městských sadech. Sometimes a corporate name for a stadium is a bit cumbersome, but this one is simply Arena, which I think we can agree is simply simpler than whatever I just tried to pronounce a few seconds ago. I have been talking a lot about floodlights in 2024, but this ground, it was a flood that occurred in 2024. It's not quite the same. In fact, it badly damaged the stadium. But after a lot of hard work, it's back up and running again. Design-wise, this is nothing too far outside of your run-of-the-mill football stadium, but I like how the trees overshadow the stands, making for a more cozy atmosphere, and also it means that squirrels get to watch the game if they want to. You know, squirrels go crazy for acorns, which is an inferior nut. Imagine how they'd react to honey-roasted cashews or chocolate-coated macadamias. Has anyone gave them some? Someone should do that. Actually, no, chocolate will probably kill them. Squirrels are basically dogs, aren't they? Městský Stadion is situated in Ostrava. And an interesting little tidbit about Ostrava is... Anyway, this ground opened way back in 1938, but was completely reconstructed around 10 years ago. That was prior to Baník Ostrava moving in. It is the preeminent track and field stadium in the country, but it also hosts the occasional Czech international football match. So clearly it is fit for footballing purposes. I still don't get... Also Městský Stadion. I guess we'll call this one Lil Městský. Městský just means municipal, so it's a rather generic name. It's the John Smith of stadium names, if we disregard John Smith Stadium in Yorkshire. Actually no, I think they changed the name on that one. Anyway, whilst the previous Městský opened just before World War II, this ground opened in 1945. When these guys are in the top tier, which they have been in recent decades, they actually have to play elsewhere, as this doesn't cut the mustard. Ooh, maybe they... Stadion Jožky Silného. This stadium was named after the club until 2022, but the name was changed to honour Jožky Silného, a footballer born in this town way back in 1902. Hopefully that honour has not been nullified by my mispronunciation of his name. Now's probably a good time to apologise for all of the pronunciations you've heard so far. You see, I recognise the letters, I just don't know what the squiggly lines attached to them mean. Ooh, looks like the drainage needs to be upgraded. Then again, the water could have cleared just a few minutes after this shot was taken, who knows? The football ground where I grew up used to flood all the time, as it was right by the river. I wonder if this one's right next to a river. Not really. September 11 has negative connotations nowadays, but in 1955 that was the day that the town of Pribram opened na Litavce. An interesting little football ground. Well, I say little, but it's actually one of the larger grounds in the league, isn't it? It was reconstructed about 20 years after it opened, and that reconstruction was actually financed by the nearby uranium mine. They said, what's mine is yours, except the mine, that's mine. Some of the miners even volunteered to help with the construction. Thankfully, the miners were not miners, because there are child labour laws. That mine is no longer in operation, by the way. Speaking of rivers, the name na Litavce is in reference to the river that the ground backs onto. When it bursts its banks, the ground has been known to turn into a lake, akin to what we saw earlier. Not quite as big as the lake at that disused mine, though. Oh, there is none. I was thinking it would be like a big pit mine or something. So there you have it. Time to pick a favourite. I think I've got to go with eFootball Arena. Yes, the amenities are rudimentary, but I just love the location. It's such a vibe. Now it's time for extra time. Czech edition. We're going to call it the Checkout. Okay, we've thought of the title, now what's the premise? Well, we'll guess how much the average basket of groceries cost in Czechia, I guess. The Checkout. See, it's like the Checkout. I'm going to say like 34 euros. Oh wait, they have their own currency. The Koruna. So now we've got to look it up and the currency exchange. No, I'm not even getting a straight answer. I really should have thought of something more interesting. This is the worst checkout ever. I know it's the first one, but I don't think there'll be any sequels. Thanks for watching, have a good one.